Gamecast Continuum.
Welcome, everybody, to Gamecast Continuum, and thank you so much for tuning into our show. We are your hosts, MrBojangles, 1984, and...
Drakedangerson, yay, yay.
Yay, yay! Here at Gamecast Continuum, we choose one of the greatest games from past or present, and then go over their history in detail. But before we get into all of that, we do need to take care of some housekeeping. We do this show live every Sunday night at mixer.com/gamecastcontinuum. After the show, we upload the video to our YouTube channel and the audio version on Podbean and iTunes. You can find us on all three by searching for Gamecast Continuum, but the best way to keep up to date with the show is to follow us on Twitter at GCKontinuum. There, we'll tweet when we're going live, like I did just before I hit the go live button. We'll tweet what's next for us to cover, what game we'll be talking about, and if there'll be any changes to the schedule. But most importantly, please feel free to send us any feedback to gamecastcontinuum@gmail.com. That way we can make the show better for you. But with all of that out of the way, let's get started with our show.
All right. Hey, what's an awesome name for a game?
Total Death and Blood Match.
Oh, well, we're covering a game that's pretty close to that. It's called Max Payne.
Oh,
yeah. I remember seeing like the commercials for this game, and they kind of threw me off because like at the end of the commercial you see the character like flat faced with a picture there. It's like,
yeah.
Ooh. But apparently this is a good game. It was developed by Remedy Entertainment, published by Gathering of Developers. That's on PC, Rockstar Games on the consoles, and Maxsoft on the Mac OS. Boo.
Yeah, it was available on quite a few platforms. Which I didn't realize back when the game first came out. You know.
Yeah, I didn't even remember that it was on one of these ones. It was on the PC, PlayStation 2, Xbox, Mac OS, and the Game Boy Advance, and that one came way later on. The first one was in July 23rd of 2001, and that was the PC. Then came the PlayStation 2 in December, Xbox in December, Mac OS July the next year, and then Game Boy Advance in December 18th, 2003. That's... Yeah, I don't remember the Game Boy Advance version. I had one of those. I think it's probably because I played the PS2 version. But anyways,
yeah, that's what I played too.
Yeah, I know some people had an Xbox, but you know most people just played Halo on that. Mm-hmm. It's a third-person shooter, so you get to see the guy, get to see the back of his head.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Majority of the game involves these cool bullet time gunfights like the Matrix. I believe that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was because of the drug in the game, wasn't it? It would like you take the drug and put you in bullet time or something like that. Maybe not. I think it was.
You used, well, which we'll get to later, but you used painkillers to like regain your health and stuff. But
yeah,
bullet time was just a mechanic that was built in.
Oh, well, the levels are pretty straightforward, involving a little bit of platforming, except for one part in the game when you're in the Nightmare universe.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there's like the puzzles in the game are pretty easy to solve. You advance the story by going through Max's monologue as he determines what the next step should be, which usually involves an ambush somewhere. They could have just called the game Ambush and it would have made total sense. There's
it has to be an action game, so there's going to be at least one ambush somewhere.
Well, when this game sees something coming up, they hit the ambush button. Several of the levels involve like nightmares and drug-induced like hallucinations, which you know kind of sounds like my 20s. But the nightmares I remember being like really kind of lucid fucking dreams. They were really nuts. And the hallucinations were okay. The movies hallucinations actually looked really good, but the movie's a piece of shit. You start out with a semi-automatic pistol, probably a Beretta, but who knows? But you gain access to other weapons as you progress, like you do in these action games, and you could dual wield. So somebody was a John Woo fan. Um, you take
These movies were big when this came out.
Oh, they were huge. What was it? Broken Arrow and Face Off.
Hmm.
Um, and some of them could be dual wielded. You regain your health by taking painkillers, which you collect as you play through the game. Um, starting the opioid epidemic. The AI may seem
Yeah,
like
that's
it's
all right.
yeah. Max Payne, you dirty, dirty man. The AI may seem like it's intelligent, but sometimes the actions are completely scripted. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
like literally everything from when they shoot at you, when they're taking cover, it's all scripted. Which I mean, knowing that now, that
it's pretty impressive.
yeah, they did seem like they were reacting to you when
Hmm.
you approached the encounter. So
Yeah,
bravo to them.
yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's the main cool thing of the game is the bullet time, which is a form of slow motion. It's triggered. Time slows down so much that bullets can be seen by the naked eye and allows Max to perform some special moves like
Mhm.
fatalities or whatnot. I remember seeing it, and like at the time, I had seen The Matrix like 50,000 times.
Yeah.
So like when this when this game came out, I was like, holy shit! And then like the other Matrix games came out, and I was sad. Um,
Womp womp.
I know. Payne, his movement can be slowed during this time, but the player can still move the reticle in real time, giving you the advantage over your enemies, which you actually see a lot in action games these days. This is a mechanic that's like, it was cool back then, but you see it in like every game now.
Yeah.
Occasionally, yeah, the camera will switch to third person and rotate around the last enemy to kill and encounter. Yeah, it's moving. When we were doing like the John Woo comparison, this is like essentially what the developers wanted is they wanted like a real action movie type of feel.
Yeah.
And the sometimes the camera actually follows the bullet fired from a sniper rifle, which is really cool. It always reminds me of Saving Private Ryan when that dude's in the bell tower. Uh,
Only
the
seen that movie
developer.
one time.
Oh man, I watch it every Memorial Day. But that's neither here nor there. The developers chose to go with panels and voiceovers to progress the story. So it was kind of like basically like watching a comic book, which I'm always a fan of.
Yeah. And
Ooh.
I liked the way that they did it also with the panels. It was all very heavily stylized and
Yeah, it's like Sin City and stuff, except it wasn't black and white, but
right.
same basic concept where you got this grizzled like detective, DA agent, whatever, and it's a I think it's a very useful form for telling stories. That and at
Yeah.
the time they probably were thinking, well, we could go CGI and it's not going to look as great, or we can do this and tell a correct story while also making it very stylized.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I thought they did a great job. And this story in particular, it's told in medias ras. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but
I
basically
think
just
that's Latin for my pants are on fire.
it could be,
Yeah.
or that's when you start telling a story in the middle of the action. So instead of, once upon a time, Georgie Boy was, doing dishes and then stuff happens. But it consisted of 3 volumes: The American Dreamer, A Cold Day in Hell, and A Bit Closer to Heaven. Those are the 3 different volumes that you played through. Again, pulling on like comics and stuff, they had volumes to their stories.
They all
Uh,
sound like 80s metal band albums too. Like if you were to
yeah,
tell me that it was like some metal band in the 80s, their albums were The American Dream, A Cold Day in Hell, and A Bit Closer to Heaven. It's like, yeah, I totally heard of them. They were great.
yeah. I mean, that's totally believable. Uh, but the story of our buddy Max Payne begins in January of 2001. Now, this is after the worst blizzard that New York City has ever seen. And, you got Max Payne. He's a former NYPD officer who's kind of a renegade. No, he is a renegade DEA agent. And he's just standing at the top of the roof of a skyscraper. And you see police units arrive down below. Then Max, he starts getting these flashbacks. You know, we said there's nightmare sequences and things like that, but he flashes all the way back to 1998, and
It's a
it's
good
him.
year.
Yeah, yeah, 98 was a pretty decent year, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
probably.
so it shows Max returning home to his home in New Jersey, and he finds like there was a trio of junkies that had broken into his home, and they were high on this drug called Valkyr. Now he rushes to try and save his family, but you know it wouldn't be a good story if they were alive, right? I mean, they were brutally murdered. He was
Jesus
too late.
Christ.
He was too
Got
late.
that really dark.
Yeah, but so these junkies, they killed his family, and after the funeral, that's when he transfers from the NYPD to the DEA. Um, so comes back to present time, or 3 years later from the flashback, back to 2001, and Max is working undercover as an operative inside the Punchinello mafia family, and they're the ones responsible for trafficking this Valkyr drug that those junkies were high on when they killed his family, and Max is kind of wanting to take him down, right? So he gets this message from BB, who's a colleague of his at the DEA, and it's from his best friend, Alex Balder, and
Ding.
asks him,
It's
what?
it's a ding. I'm gonna probably say ding every time you make reference to some Norse mythology or names because it is all over the place in this damn game. Like Alex Baldur's for Baldur the Brave, who is one of the
Yeah,
Norse gods.
okay, nice. Hey, a little extra bit of knowledge for our viewers and listeners. I like it.
Hmm.
So it's from his best friend Alex Boulder.
Baldur.
He wants him to meet him at the subway station at Roscoe Street. So of course Max is gonna go and meet with him. Uh, but when he gets there, he interrupts this guy Jack Lupino, who's a mafia underboss for the Punchinello family, and Lupino was trying to break into the bank by blowing his way through the wall in the subway station. And, of course, Max is a
Easier
cop.
ways to do that, dude.
There are much easier ways to do that, yes. Like, I don't know, walk through the front door like a normal person,
Or just work. Just go get a job.
or get a
You don't
job.
have- Yeah,
Yeah, you don't have to steal. But
but it's
um,
fun.
apparently for some people, yes. I mean, they make a living out of it. Um, but yeah, Max interrupts him trying to break into the bank. They start shooting at each other. Um, Max he works his way out. He's a survivor. He blows his way out of there, makes it back to the surface, and he bumps into Alex, and then he's killed by some unknown assassin. Alex is.
I
Um,
thought Max was, and I was like, man, it's the shortest game we've done so far.
yeah, game over. Rip to the story.
Done.
Uh, but the thing of it is, Max Payne, you end up getting framed for the murder. You're the prime suspect for the murder of Alex Baldner. Um,
Gasp.
well, yeah, and that's only because Max Payne is still undercover. Like, nobody in the media knows he's a cop. Nobody will fess up to it to blow his cover, so he's on the run now. But at
It's
the
like
same time,
Leonardo DiCaprio and was it the oh God, what's the
uh,
movie? Oh man,
I know
I'm
what you're
really
thinking
messing
of
this one
too.
up. Yeah, it'll come to me. Not Titanic.
No, it's not Titanic. One with Jack Nicholson, right?
Yeah, Jack Nicholson, where he did a really shitty Boston accent.
Yeah, shitty Boston
The
accent.
Departed. There we go.
Yes, The Departed. Okay. Now that we've spent so much time trying to figure out the name of a movie we're not covering, let's go.
Let's do this.
So, at the same time that he's being framed for the murder of his best friend, the mafia finds out that Max is indeed a cop, and now they want him dead. Um, so, Max has just got his whole world falling in on top of him. So, as you're searching for Lupino and businesses owned by him, air quotes for those who's listening, not watching the video. But yeah, businesses owned by him. Max busts this drug deal of Valkyr and discovers that this Russian mobster Vladimir Lem, which of course his name is Vladimir. I mean, he's a
Well,
Russian
yeah,
guy,
it's a
right?
Russian. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, freaking racists. Um, but he finds out that the Russian he's involved in a turf war with Punchinello's men. So we have a little bit of an ally here, it seems, right?
Yeah. Strange bedfellows.
Strange bedfellows. Really?
Well,
That's what you throw out there? Strange bedfellows. Okay. So you eventually end up catching up with Vinny uh, Cogniti, which is another Italian stereotype.
yeah,
Um,
this is
he's he's the right hand dude of Lupino, with whom you just had an encounter. You shoot Cognati or Gogniti, whatever his name is.
Cogniti.
Yes, Gogniti. All right, so you shoot him, and then he runs off, and you end up chasing him through the city, and you find Lupino's hideout. Huzzah! Which is it's a nightclub, of course. You know, all mobsters' bases are nightclubs. But this one's called the Ragnarok. Get it?
Ding.
Haha, ding. But yeah, apparently Lupino is a huge fan of Norse mythology, as were
As are the
the
developers.
developers. Yes.
Yeah.
uh, he's stricken with too much bulletitis. In other words, gets shot a whole bunch of times, so I'm assuming I'm Max. After this, you meet Mona Sachs, who's a contract assassin, and she pours you a drink. But there's a side effect.
Yeah.
It's made with a sedative.
Yeah. What an idiot.
Yeah, kind of pretty dumb. But what happens next, Jake?
Well, anybody ever seen the movie The Hangover?
Yes.
This is exactly like that, except like it involves mafia and torture and slaughterhouse. Yeah, it's not yeah. Just remember you can't spell slaughter without laughter. Max escapes and enters into an alliance with that sneaky fucking Russian Lem.
Nice.
He agrees. It's God, I love that movie. Max agrees to kill the traitor of the Ruski. His name is Boris Dime, which Dime doesn't really sound Russian.
No.
And his bear and his band of married vodka drinkers aboard the cargo ship Charon. Oh, I meant to look that up. The ship has some fucking high-powered weapons on it. Probably like acidic whoopee cushions or something they stole from the Joker. But they belong to the Russian mob. So Max keeps those weapons for himself, as basically in exchange for the favor he's performing for Lem.
Nice.
Yeah. After he goes to this Casa D'Angelo, and guess what? There's a ambush there. But Max is basically impervious to all this. He's also the main character in the game, so he doesn't die.
No.
He escapes. Yeah. After this, he basically goes full fucking Punisher. Grabs his arsenal, and probably probably a hoagie or something. Heads over to Don Angelo's Pinchinello's casa, and he gets inside there, but Lisa Punchinello, who's Mona's sister, is dead. And Don was basically oops. So it's gonna give her motivation later to help you out. Hint, hint. But we found that the Don's been basically he's the patsy for this Valkyr stuff. It was never him that was selling it. It was Nicole Horn of the Aesir Ding Corporation, which I forget what Aesir is. It's another Norse thingy. But she kills the Don. And then while Max is looking away, she slips in and injects him with a lethal dose of Valkyr.
Sweet.
Yeah. I remember this part in the game vividly. You go into like some super weird trippy thing where you're constantly reliving your family getting killed, and you just hear all these screams, and you're running down a blood trail. And surprisingly, the platforming was not very intuitive. So this is not only does this part like fucking suck because of all the screaming and shit, but it's one of the hardest platforming parts in the game. So you're just like, we want this to be done, but you can't do it.
Mm-hmm. I do remember
Uh,
that part being a little frustrating.
yeah, it was a little frustrating, just blood streaks, and Max dies. That's the end of the game. So they didn't know what to do after that. Actually,
Oh,
yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. um, Max awakes from his nightmare and chases his one lead to a steel foundry that is actually a front for a super secret military complex, as most steel foundries are. Um, when, when he enters, he finds a bunch of orange little people making candy. Well, not really. He discovers that the
are we
Valkyrie is the
talking Oompa
result.
Loompas?
Whoa, 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 whoa! I don't think we have the dude. We don't have the copyrights to that. Disney
Oh,
will sue the shit out of us.
I'll just
Uh,
cut it out. I'll just cut it out.
just cut it out. All right.
Okay.
Whew. Anyways, um, he discovers Valkyrie is the result of the Valkyrie Project, a 90s U.S. military attempt to improve soldier stamina and morale. Apparently, they're giant fans of Captain fucking America or the movie
I
Universal
was,
Soldier.
I was thinking Thor, maybe.
Oh well, this is improving chemical or improving soldiers through chemicals. Thor just has a really cool hammer.
Yeah, but I don't know.
But
Everything else is Norse.
yeah, everything else is Norse. They should have named it Fenrir. Um,
Mm.
the project was stopped due to poor results. Which no shit. Any government program usually is. But it was later restarted by Horn because she's the bad guy and also an asshole. Um,
Just a little.
Oh, yeah, this is where the paths really cross because you find out around this point that Max's wife found out about Aesir not so legal tendencies, and
Mm.
Horn whacked her off or had her whacked.
Whoa.
Um, but
Family
she didn't
show,
stop
kind
there.
of.
Once they found this out, they started this thing called Operation Deadeye, which sounds like all candy and Fruit Loops, but
Mm-hmm.
it's actually really terrible. Any witnesses, including the mad scientists working on the Valkyr, are killed, and the evidence
Damn.
is destroyed. Yeah, the fucking Acer doesn't mess around, and it's Acer. It's like AESIR, not the computer company Acer.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're continuing trying to avoid these litigations here. We're not slandering you, Acer. Your computers are mediocre. Um, Max Max then escapes the facility before it self-destructs, like Max does.
Like a boss.
Yeah, like it's. God, I think I never really noticed that because I wasn't playing the game completely through when I played it, so I didn't notice like these like, all right, escape, bomb, fight a bunch of guys. Um, Max receives a call from BB who says, "Hey, let's go do a meeting in an underground parking lot because that's not suspicious."
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. Through deductive reasoning, Max already figured out that it was BB that shot Alex and framed Max because he's an asshole. So they have their meeting, and guess what happens? Take a whiff. They probably shake hands, they get a
It
hug,
couldn't have
and
been an ambush.
yep, it was an ambush.
No.
Yep, totally an ambush.
Come on.
Yeah, sorry, dude. That's just the way it rolls. Well, after this, BB is on the run, and he's got a gun. I'm a poet and didn't even know it. Max kills BB, then gets a call from some guy named Alfred Woden.
Hmm.
And he tells him to come to the Asgard building. Ding.
Dang.
Probably for another ambush. Um, so when Max arrives to Asgard, he's ambushed by information.
Woo!
Oh,
Finally,
swerved.
something
I
good.
know. I swerved you on that one. Um, Alfred lets Max know that he's part of a super secret society called the Inner Circle. Um, I know, yeah, the Illuminati,
Yeah.
which has strong ties to the government. Um, they let Max know Horn's identity, but can't do anything about it because many bosses, chicken shits, really.
Yeah.
But
They can talk about it, but they don't do anything
yeah,
about it.
they're like, well, we could do something, but we're getting in a lot of trouble. They do ask Max to kill Horn in exchange for a complete pardon of his charges. So That's where that comes in. And then poof, Asgard is overrun by Aegis, being another the same guys, that are trying to destroy us. It's another ambush. So it was coming. After fighting out, we get out of Asgard. And then Max arrives at the Acer Corporation building after going through like all this high tech security shit and avoiding a helicopter with a fucking machine gun on it.
Yeah,
Which
fuck that
yeah,
part. Oh my god.
that part sucks. Okay, I'm just gonna turn my difficulty up to easy now.
Yeah, right.
Max runs into Mona. So this time she didn't slip him a Mickey, so good on her. In an elevator. Horn's men shoot her in the head after she decides not to shoot Max. Max fights them, but once he gets back to the elevator, her body's missing, which is weird.
Hmm.
I didn't play the second one, so I don't remember how that
Are there
story ends
any
up.
body snatchers in this game?
There might be, or she might be working for the Umbrella Corporation like Ada Wong. Um,
Maybe.
Crossover. Um, at the top of the building, of course, Max confronts Nicole, who, like a good villain, escapes to the roof and boards a chopper, like Cobra Commander. Um,
Hey.
I know. And then like Die Hard, there's a lot of movies here. I figured putting action movies would be like the best route to go with this, but like Die Hard with a Vengeance, Max shoots the wires of an antenna, which get caught up in the chopper's blades, and then boom, Nicole's dead. Chopper goes boom, and police arrive in time to arrest Max. And on the way out, he sees Alfred Woden kind of standing there, or Woden, and he smiles because he knows, Alfred is gonna make sure he doesn't get his get cornholed in the pen, and
Yep.
that's the end of the game. You're good. I don't think there's no end credit sequence or anything like that. It's just like, hey, you won, good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game over, bitches.
Game over. You're you're awesome cop 316. Boom.
Yeah. It would be cool if you could make Max say things in the game
Nah,
right before you shoot the wires. Like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
exactly. Yeah, that would actually been pretty cool to like take like movie quotes from like parts of the game that are like aren't even hinted at of like being from other movies. Just
Yeah.
being like, yeah,
Let's put that in there. That's more of a Duke Nukem thing, I think.
it is. But Duke's his own little thing. Max Payne's more of the quiet guy.
Oh
He
yeah,
wants to,
he's
yeah.
totally quiet. He's not in any way a fucking crazy ass DE agent who used to be an NYPD detective. No,
No,
not at all.
no, he's easygoing.
Yeah, yeah, except for the fact that his wife and newborn daughter were ruthlessly murdered by some Valkyr addicts, and he decides to go all one man army on the entire crime syndicate like the Punisher.
Which Punisher are we talking? Are we talking like the new
Frank
one?
Castle.
Yeah. Well, I was talking like the actors.
Uh, um,
The guy from Daredevil. I think he makes it
yeah,
awesome Punisher. Yeah, we'll go with that one.
yeah, we'll go
'Cause
with that one.
I don't want to think about Dolph Lundgren right now.
No. Yeah. But another character that we ran across was Miss Mona Sachs. As we mentioned, going through the story, she's a contract killer. She's actually the twin sister of Lisa Punchinello.
Ah,
Yes, and Mona wants very much so to kill her husband, Angelo Punchinello, who's the boss of the family, because he's an abusive piece of shit.
yeah. Well, he wasn't very smart, so his ass got killed anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And after he's killed, Mona then sides with Nicole Horn, and she is hired to try and kill Max, which that didn't end up coming to fruition, obviously.
No, it did not.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then we mentioned Nicole Horn, the main antagonist piece of shit, who led a secret military program called Valhalla.
Ding.
Yes, another ding. Um, that was the program that Drake mentioned with Valkyr, and how she resumed production of the drug. She is, as we mentioned, responsible for the murder of Michelle Payne because Michelle saw these documents that incriminated Horn, and she couldn't have that
Yep.
coming out.
I think it's
Um,
fair. I don't know why Max is being a big baby about it.
I know, right? I mean, your wife was about to out me, so I had to murder
Yeah.
her. Come on.
Can't make an omelet without ham. Anyway.
Yeah. Um, we got Mr. Woden. He's a mysterious, pretty much unseen character throughout the entire game, except the very end. Like, he typically communicated with Max via phone calls, but then he does invite you to meet with him face to face, and that's when he introduces you to the inner circle, which, as Drake said, it was an Illuminati like society. That's when he tells him about Horn and expresses his wishes for Max to get rid of her, putting it politely. It appears that Horn's crew kills Woden while he's meeting with Max one time, but later in the game, you actually see it on a security camera that Woden actually gets up and walks away, so he's not dead. Um, then we've got Don Angelo Punchinello, who is the mafia boss, as I mentioned. He's the distributor of the Valkyr, and he ends up picking a fight with the Russians. Now, he plays as the main villain throughout the majority of the game until it's later discovered that Horn is actually the one pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And Horn actually has Angelo killed because he's trying to give us information, us as in Max Payne.
No, us as in me and Bojangles. He was giving us information.
Yeah, he was reaching out to us directly, back in
through a video game.
2001. Yeah, back through a video game. We had connections, that's why we're doing this show. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. We got to speak the truth.
Yep. You got to be transparent in this day and age. Vinny Cognitti, as we mentioned earlier, he's a freaking high-strung mobster. He's working for Lupino, and he's afraid that Lupino's actually going to kill him because Lupino's a freaking Valkyrie addict, and he's got these, I don't know, visions and shit. This is the guy that we shoot in the gut and chase him through the alleys, and
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we leave him to bleed out in the alley once we force the information out of him, because we're such a nice guy. Vladimir Lem, yeah, I mean, he's a piece of shit mobster who you get the information from. I mean, it's the only right thing to do is shoot him in the gut and leave him there to die.
I know. How come all these guys are pieces of shit? Didn't they ever watch Goodfellas? Those guys were awesome.
Right? Come on, learn something.
I know, right?
They got Mr. Lem, the Russian mob gun runner.
The sneaky fucking Russian.
Yep, the sneaky Russian. He's the gun runner, so he has to be sneaky. And he's at war with Angelo, obviously. Now we've said it like 2 or 3 times. Sorry for repeating ourselves. But he eventually teams up with Max and provides him with some weapons. Vladimir?
Yeah.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, he probably did.
At least once in his life. Then we got Valkyr addicted Jack Lupino. He's an underboss for the Punchinello family. And he helps with he oversees the distribution of the drug, which is, I'm sure, how he got started using it, and then starts obsessing over freaking Satan and shit. And I mean, he becomes a Satanist, and he's making a Faustian pact with the devil. And when you meet him in the game, you actually interrupt him in the middle of a satanic prayer, and we end up shooting him dead. But
I kind of wish he would have finished it to see what happened.
Yeah,
just like the devil would have popped up. That would have been pretty fucking. That'd have been metal.
That would have been dope. Yeah,
I know.
Anyway, BB Hensley, Max's supposed DEA friend, who is as crooked as they come and is actually on Horn's payroll. Go figure.
What a dick.
Yeah. He's the one who radios Max, telling him to meet with Alex Baldner at the train station, and then he shoots Baldner dead and frames Max for it. Toward the end of the game, it's finally revealed for sure that BB is indeed a traitor, and Max kills him.
Good. Asshole.
Yep. Deputy Chief Jim Bravura, who was in the game quite a bit because Max was trying to elude the the police the entire game, and this is the guy who's chasing you throughout the game's entirety. You eventually get arrested by Deputy Chief Jim Rivera at the end of the game. But in Max Payne 2, I know this bit. You actually work for Jim Rivera. He becomes your
Yeah.
boss.
Well, like it happens all the time.
Yeah. You have a rogue renegade police officer who does the right thing, but at the same time it's the wrong thing because he's killing people, and then you end up being his boss. It's just how it is.
That's the meaning of life.
Kind of. In some situations, at least, don't use any of our advice in every situation. But when the time's right, you'll know.
You can't put those handcuffs on me.
You're right.
Unless I ask for it.
If you ask for it, then yeah.
Wait, wrong podcast.
The right podcast, wrong idea.
Well,
I don't know. The last character that we have on the rundown here, Michelle Payne. Obviously, well, not really obvious, but Max Payne's wife. She was working for
technically not anymore.
Yeah.
Till death
Man,
do us part. Well,
you're terrible.
Yeah, I know.
You can't even give the guy time to grieve. But yeah, she was working for the DA's office when she came across the files that incriminated Horn, and that's how it started. She got whacked, then Max went all freaking Punisher, and
yeah,
there you have it, Max Payne, the video game.
Yep, game over. There's your characters.
Yep.
They didn't really have anything in particularly, or like they didn't have like much on the voice acting front. The only notables were James McCaffrey, who's Max Payne. He played Jimmy Keefe on Rescue Me, which I heard is a great show, but I never got a chance to watch it. And he was also he was the main character on this really shitty 90s Knight Rider knockoff called Viper, where the guy drove like a Dodge Viper, but it like transformed and had like these fangs in the front. It was really shitty. I only remember that because I was like really young and thought it was awesome at the time. And then
I don't recall that show at all.
it was like really early 90s. They like had like a little mini movie for it and shit, and then made it like it was on like that channel that always had like the weird shows on it that none of the big networks would have. Yeah. We have Haviland Morris, who did the voice for Michelle Payne. She was notable for being in Home Alone 3, the one nobody tells you about because it's probably really shitty and straight to video. And she was also 5 different characters on Law and Order, which a lot of the voice actors on the game looked like they had a long Law and Order resume.
Yeah. I looked at them briefly. That's kind of what I saw too. A lot of appearances on Law and Order, or they played one character one time on some TV show back in the 90s,
Yep. I mean, it did come out in 2001, so the 90s were pretty new back then.
I know.
But the composers, this is going to be really fun. Kartsi Hitaka and Kimo Kujasto. There we go.
God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you. It was just really them two doing it. But the soundtrack was kind of a paint by numbers action crime story game soundtrack, like how you would think it would sound is like, oh yeah. But this wasn't a bad thing because the soundtrack mixed in very well with the action of the game. So it was a very well done soundtrack. I remember I at least remember that part of the game when I played it. I was like, it's a pretty good soundtrack.
It is, actually. I thought it was pretty good. Were there any Easter eggs that you remember?
Yeah, kind of like if you shoot the fire alarm or the speaker from live from the crime scene in Fear That Gives Men Wings, Max will actually thank you.
Okay.
And we mentioned the Matrix earlier with the bullet time stuff. Also, there's a mission called Nothing to Lose. That's very similar to the lobby scene near the end of the Matrix. If you don't know the lobby scene, then I don't want to talk to you because you're a terrible person.
It's one of the best action sequences.
So good.
Yeah. But
Um, they had some behind the scenes stuff. Originally it was supposed to be released on the Sega Dreamcast, but then Sega decided to uh discontinue the Dreamcast, unfortunately.
yeah.
Um, that's sad.
Hmm.
Um, the scene with Vinny and Max was originally shown in the 1998 trailer, and it involved Vinny getting executed by Payne, but it was later changed along with the other tweaks to the story, as you do. I mean, it was still 3 years
Yeah.
out, so the story probably changed 3 or 4 times.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. It's just goes to show it's not just something that's recent because you get
Yeah.
a lot of people that say, "Oh, but they showed it in the trailer and then the game came out. I didn't even play that way."
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing new, guys. Like this has been going on forever, I'm
Ages.
sure. Yeah, since video games started being developed, you start something, you're excited about it, you want to show it off, so you show people little bits and pieces, but then that doesn't really make sense anymore, or you feel that it's too aggressive for the tone you're trying to set up for that
Mm-hmm.
moment. So you have to make little adjustments.
Yeah. Just don't do it at the last minute when you're about to release the game.
Yeah, like don't start doing that 6 months before launch.
Yeah.
Not a good look. Um, but as far as personal experiences with this game, I did play through it. I did complete the game. The most memorable part would be that freaking nightmarish dream sequence when you're following the
Mm-hmm.
trails of
Yeah.
blood and it's just constant screaming and from like sounds like your wife and the child and sometimes it's just random baby giggles from what I recall, and it's basically a pitch black room and it's fucking eerie as hell.
Yeah.
The bullet time was a lot of fun.
It
Really enjoyed the
was.
bullet time because you're diving all slow, and as you mentioned when we were covering the info here, you can still aim in real time. So before you hit the ground, you can nail 3 or 4 different targets just while you're dodging or diving, ducking.
Dip, dip, dive, dodge.
But you get the point. It was just a lot of fun. It sounds like you've had some time. No, you actually said that you completed the game also, right?
I did. Yeah, I did it on a
Yeah.
deployment, so we stopped in a port and we got a modded out PlayStation 2 with like 70 games. And I was like, well, now it's time to start playing Max Payne. If I had
Nice.
known what I know now, I'd have probably played it on the PC. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, it was a really fun game. I enjoyed it because um if you couldn't tell, I'm a huge action movie fanatic, so
Yeah.
like this was like, I mean, games have been coming out with like the action movie type of qualities, but this was like hitting it home, like finally like a cinematic type of like action crime thriller type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've kind of beaten the dead horse here, but the whole pains that they used, kind of comic booky and telling the story that way, it was unique, really, for
Hmm.
video games at the time. So there's another thing that stood out, as well as the bullet time mechanic that they kind of borrowed from Matrix. But how much did they borrow from the Matrix? This game was in development for how long?
Um,
They showed
I
trailers for it in '98.
Yeah, 98, so it's probably at least 4 years,
So
I
I
would
mean, it's
think.
it's kind of hard to say. I mean, did they take that from Matrix? Did they just kind of have similar ideas?
I would say that they saw that and said, "Man, that's really fucking cool. We should
Yeah,
put that in the game."
you're probably right. I mean, you're probably
It
right.
was probably like, you got this delicious hamburger, but you're missing something, and then somebody brings in some like Chipotle mayo or something like that, and you're like, this was
Mm,
what it was missing.
yes, that's exactly what it needed. But how was the game received? Like, what did the reviewers have to say about
Um,
it?
well, because it came out on multiple platforms, it was actually really good on the PC. It was 89 out of 100 on Metacritic. The PS2 was 80 out of 100, which was kind of weird. Then I did some digging and found out why, which we'll get to later. But this was like one of the first times that I looked at Metacritic and there was such a huge difference in the scoring, because usually it's
Yeah,
pretty close.
doesn't happen that
Um,
often.
GamePro. Oh my god, I missed that magazine. Um, Gave it a 9 out of 10. So the DualShock controller organizes logically because at the time the PC one was just keyboard and mouse. Had sharp responses, especially considering the cool bullet time and shot dodge aspects. Which we already know that. I'm not going to go into that mechanic again.
Yeah.
But they said it was a good port from the PC to the PS2. IGN gave it an 8.1 out of 10. Says it delivers nonstop, ultra cool, and fun as hell action. They recommended it. Um, for they recommended it if PS2 was your only system. So
Wow.
they're saying if you have another system, get it for those. But if your only logical choice is PS2, then just get that. And then Game Pen, which isn't even a site anymore. I try to go there and it's no longer there. Fucking hates this game. They gave the PS2 one a 50 out of 100, and then they gave the PC one, which is everybody seems to have liked more than the PS2 version, a 30 out of 100.
Wow.
Basically, yeah, they just this is the main argument that it was a paint by the numbers action game, and there's like no replayability. So I'm just kind of like, these guys just didn't like the game. That's why they're no longer a website because they probably suck.
Real nice.
I know. Get a job,
Uh,
you losers.
as far as the awards, looks like Max Payne did pretty well. IGN in 2001 gave it the Reader's Choice Action Game of the Year. Or also, IGN themselves gave it Best Graphics and Best Sound in
Yeah, the funny
2001.
part about the Reader's Choice ones is like this game didn't rate very high with the IGN editors, and like they were surprised that like they got flooded with like the Reader's Choice thing because I guess the people liked it and they decided to flood IGN with their votes.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
IGN didn't feel that highly of it, but the readers were like, no, this is the best action game of the year. But then you got BAFTA, in which it won the best PC game of the year 2001, and GameSpot said it was the best of E3 at 2000, and it also took their Reader's Choice game of 2001 and the Reader's Choice single player action game of 2001 as well.
yeah. I think that's the same deal with GameSpot too. Is the same people went onto there and voted for Max Payne as well.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe they did. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, any video game, of course, is going to have some problems unless it's like a Nintendo uh, product like Mario Kart, like we had
Oh
covered
yeah.
last week. But with Max Payne, the film based on the game was.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's
it
yeah.
had a 16% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and it unfortunately continued the trend of video game movie adaptations being pretty freaking terrible. For some reason, though, the studio thought it was a good idea and released the movie as PG-13,
Yeah.
which
What a fucking
for a,
geniuses.
for a Max Payne game, I mean, you should not go PG-13.
Yeah.
Game movie, I should say.
Yeah.
But the other problems, the PlayStation 2 version suffered from reduced detail and occasional slowdowns because the game was stressing the absolute limits of the console's power. And that would be why so many reviewers said, you can
Yep.
get the PS2 version if you want, but there's like 5 other ways you can play this game. Go there. In addition, the levels were broken up into smaller parts, so it would not tax the PlayStation 2's 32 megabytes of RAM.
Full
So,
32 megabytes.
megabytes,
Wow.
yes, MB, not
Yep.
GBs like we're talking about, or
Mm.
TBs. But yeah, not very many problems. But the PlayStation 2 one was rather large just by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts?
Uh, go play the game. You can actually buy it on PS4 right now if that's your console choice. I think that yeah, I know they have it on there. It's a really good game. It's a really easy play and has a good story.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, if you're looking for a game that's kind of trippy in some sections and full of action and ambushes, Max Payne is definitely the game for you. That's for sure. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. You know, I don't know how well it held up over time and how the remastered versions look, but sure they're still full of all that action from
Mm-hmm.
before. So
It probably runs really smooth on the PS4.